Hello again. My name is Christopher Cole, and because I'm recording this in November of 2016, I am the first vice chair of the Pima County Libertarian Party. Normally, when I make one of these videos, it's overtly political. Today, no. It's political in that all social interaction is political, but it is not political in the conventional sense. I'm going to talk about social justice warriors and society's assigning of gender roles. At least that's what they claim. I disagree with them. I say gender roles are assigned by evolution. So, let's start with Australopithecus. Australopithecus is a wonderful place to start. The genus Australopithecus is the precursor to genus Homo. And Australopithecus had several species: Afarensis, Africanus, boisei, and so forth. And it is the Africanus and Afarensis species that developed into genus Homo. At least that's the wisdom of today. Now, how did this happen? Climate changed. Well, climate's always changing. It just changes slower than weather. But the climate got better for Australopithecus, and their numbers increased. Australopithecus was a social creature. We figured this out because, first off, their nearest modern relatives, aside from us, the chimps, are very social creatures. We obviously are social creatures. Plus, all the fossils tend to be found in groups. So, a social structure. Australopithecus traveled around in bands or packs or tribes or whatever. And so, with the increase in numbers, the social structure of their band started getting more complex. You know, if you've only got like 4 or 5 people, adults, social structures can get complex, but not nearly as complex as, say, 15 or 20 people, adults. And the number of bands, of course, would increase. Either the bands got bigger, or they split off into more numerous bands, or both. So the social interactions got more complex, and the brain evolved in Australopithecus to a larger size in order to handle the more complex social interactions. Now, the brain is a very energy expensive organ to develop and to operate. The human brain is probably the most energy expensive organ in the body, which is why, while Australopithecus was an herbivore, Homo is omnivore. Meat is a very calorie dense food source, and when you need a lot of calories to operate a brain, well, you eat a lot of calories in meat. According to anthropologists who have studied this, Neanderthals and early modern humans in Europe had a diet that was about 85% meat. Our ancestors, the Australopithecus, turned into our ancestors, Homo, as they started increasing the amount of meat they ate. Now, hunting, until pretty modern times, was a very dangerous, extremely dangerous, in fact, activity, especially when you're hunting with a dagger, a stone dagger, or a short spear that you can't throw, you haven't learned, you can only stab with. And so you're right up next to your prey. And if your prey has horns or antlers, they can kill you. And if you go for traps where you set up brush fires and use the fires to channel the prey animals to where you can get out a lot of them real quick, you can be run down and trampled. So hunting became the province of men, of males. Why? Well, think of it this way. A species can probably lose 80, 90% of their males and still survive. One male can, presuming he's fertile, can impregnate dozens of females. However, the reverse is not true. A species loses even 40, 50% of their females, good chance they're gone. And if you've got a dozen males trying to impregnate one female, you're going to get one kid a year, maybe. A little more if you get twins and triplets. But all of those males competing for breeding rights to that one female, going to be a lot of dead males. Species is gone. So evolution split gender roles. Males, because they're more expendable in an evolutionary sense, took on the hunting and protection. Females, because they are more necessary evolutionary, well, they took on the more the gathering, the stuff that's more sedentary. Well, there was another reason for this also. Homo babies are born not fully developed. Why? That big brain gets in the way of the birth canal. So for the first several months of a baby's life, it is extremely dependent upon its mother. Not only for food, but for transport. And babies' hands don't grasp onto fur where there's no fur. Now, we don't know when genus Homo became a naked ape. That really doesn't fossilize very well. But we can kind of suspect that with looking at lice. Genital lice are different enough from head lice so that we know at one time, they would migrate all over, but eventually there was no hair between the head and the genitals, and so the two populations started splitting. But you've got these babies that are developing and are helpless, and the mother's got to take care of them. This is not society, this is evolution. Only mamas make mama's milk. Guys don't. So, men and women developed into two separate sets of jobs. Men did the hunting and the protecting and all other dangerous works that were necessary but could result in their death very easily. What did men get out of this? exclusive breeding rights. Yeah, we're supposed to be monogamous, and we kind of are somehow, sometimes. We're on the way. But a man goes out hunting and he comes back and he's got food. It's nice that he doesn't have to compete for breeding rights with his mate. He's picked her, she's picked him. They go off and they stay together. He doesn't have to compete for breeding rights. He doesn't have to risk injury. And the second thing he gets is praise. I'm a man. Can't you tell? And I've been in the military. And in the military, over here on the left chest, quite often you'll see what we disparagingly call fruit salad. Ribbons, awards and decorations. Men, not all men, but a great number of them, will do hugely great things with that little ribbon. What did women get out of it? Well, they got retirement benefits. They didn't have to constantly breed. You know, they could stop breeding after a while and they still got fed. They still got presents. They still got attention. Doesn't sound like much for either one of them, but it was enough for evolution to come up with two sets of gender roles and for it to work. So next time you hear a social justice warrior talk about society assigning gender roles, you know better. I may not be an evolutionary biologist, but I've read up on it. You see, I usually end these things by saying, unless you honestly look at both sides of an issue, you don't have an opinion, you're a parrot. Something my father taught me many, many years ago. And I looked up and read up on evolutionary biology and how it's affected the human being. So I have said what I've said, not as an evolutionary biologist, but as an intelligent person who understands, at least to some degree, evolutionary biology. Social justice warriors don't. So, let me end. Unless you honestly look at both sides of an issue, you don't have an opinion, you're a parrot. And I thank you.